Y'all, da, ma. What's goody to the guys and the goddesses, and what's popping to the people. Like we always do about this time. I know y'all late. I'm late. It's all well. No, I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna speak that into existence. It's all good. We just, getting situated. But my apologies. I'm a little behind today. There was a lot going on, so I've been trying to get my life in order. Now, with that being said, I'm definitely worth the wait because we gonna cook heavy today. Yes, we are. This one right here is going to get rough. And the only thing that I ask is that you treat me like your auntie Nim. When you go in your auntie house, you do not bring them nasty Air Jordans and step on her good carpet. You take your shoes off. So you hit the like, hit the share. That's the way you take your shoes off when you get in here. Hit the like, hit the share, and let's be black. And much love to my white peoples too. we I went back into the archives and brought I don't even know what brought this on. But man, oh man, did I have a thought. So we're gonna deal with it heavy. We're gonna deal with it heavy. um Yahoo Queen. Now what's going on in black folk paradise? I don't even keep up, but people keep asking me to address this. And you know what? That's kind of where I'm hurting at. I will admit that's where my weakness is at. I could tap into little current events a little bit more, but I be feeling like I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I feel like, and this could be wrong, this could be cocky, and if so, if y'all tell me, I change it. I feel like our channel, this is the advanced math class. So like, I try not to touch too many surface topics, and if I do, I bring an extremely different perspective to where it don't seem like something that everybody's touching. But people saying, "Why you ain't talk about Jay Morant?" Yeah. So now you got an NBA player. I know most people know this NBA player. I forget which team he played for. I don't watch sports anymore. I retired from all sports watching except for boxing. I watch boxing. So I don't always keep up, but I know he's an NBA player. What team he play for? God, Jay Morant, the Grizzlies, Memphis Grizzlies. Okay. Well, shit, that explain everything right there. Y'all mad a nigga from Memphis toting pistols? Shit, you been to Memphis lately? He should have a pistol. Man, hey, look. If he was hooping in Memphis in that one shot where he did the layup and then he flashed his pistol, if he was hooping in Memphis when he did that, I can't knock him. Memphis is ugly. But now, let's deal with it, though. Let's deal with it. Okay, so now we divided as we are. And what I tend to notice about us is when we're divided like this, it's usually one of those situations where both sides is right and both sides is wrong. And we just don't like to admit being wrong. Our people's having accountability issues. When you've been told you ain't shit for so long, then goddamn it, you don't want to hear it no more, even when it's true. I get it. Trust me, I'm with you. So now, on one side, we got people saying he made it. He's in the NBA. Why is he still behaving this way? He 200 million to the good. Why is he still behaving this way? Then you got other people saying, that's the environment he come from. You can't expect him to change overnight. He young and he gonna make some bad decisions. And so, like I told y'all, I don't like to touch the average topic unless I'm bringing a different perspective. So we're gonna deal with both sides of that perspective, but before we do, we're gonna deal with the middle ground that nobody's saying. Why is this happening? Fuck. See what y'all do is this what y'all do that I don't like. Y'all listen to this man interview, and then everybody will formulate opinions based off the interview, how they feel about things. So nobody's gonna have an opinion based on what's not being said. So that insinuates two things. One thing, that people don't lie in interviews. The other thing, that people don't get coached through interviews. So when the reason why we can never find a space to be on these topics is because we're only willing to think with what's being placed in front of us. Y'all hear me use the term all the time, surface dwellers. We never willing to go under the surface and see what's really cooking. What's really cooking? And I'm going to tell you, I already know why won't nobody say what I'm finna say. This is the fucking elephant in the room. And ain't nobody going to say it, and y'all going to get mad at me for saying that. You know, I don't care. Well, I ain't going to say that. I do care. But I do this so that we can learn from it. I do care. I hate when people say they don't care what other people think, because that's a narcissist. If you don't care what other people think, you're a narcissistic fucker. You have to care what other people think. Other people shape reality. Unless you live in the world alone, then, you know, that's different. So the thing is this. Why is a young man who's up 200 mil behaving in a way that could jeopardize it all? And this is his second incident. So he got in trouble the first time. He slid, and now here we go again. And now all of these things are at stake. Why? Culture. It's the culture. It's this raggedy ass hip hop, hypocritical ass culture. Let me show you how. Watch this. At every NBA game, you got these rap superstars. They got front row seats. They get to sit right next to the players. They get to high five Steph Curry after he hit a three. They run the joint. They got diamonds everywhere. And these are the same guys that talk about never leave home without the chopper. I got it on me. I kill black people with no problem. You touch anything of mine, you're going to die. Those guys who make that music are sitting right there in the front row. And it's an ongoing thing. In case y'all been locked in a closet for the last 20 years. This has been going on longer than that, but at least the last 20 years is what we use as a framework. But I think it's been going on since the beginning. Where do the brothers who play basketball come from? The streets. Same place as the rappers. One of them become a rapper, the other one go to college and hoop. Now, we got this thing we do where the bulk of our masculinity is engulfed in how tough we can get the world to perceive us. It's not about how smart you are anymore. It used to be. Now it's about how gangster you are. And in today's society, if you're not looked at as some form of gangster, you can't get the girl. And you don't get the respect. This is the NBA culture and the hip hop culture is synonymous. What the fuck you hear playing at every halftime, in the background music, in between the players, while they shooting out, players coming out, all of it's hip hop, everybody. NBA players is sideline hip hop stars. When you see an NBA player, well, not these new dudes with the dresses on, but prior to that, how you see NBA players, they look like rappers. They got the same jeans on, designer shit. They got 3-4 chains just like the rappers with their name on it. They got tattoos everywhere. The cultures intermingle. And so we got this thing that goes on where the guy who goes to the streets and end up becoming a rapper, he look at the ball player like he, I respect you shooting them jumpers, but you ain't have to do what I had to do to get this money. So the epitome in Black culture of manhood, in today's Black culture, the epitome of manhood is how gangster you are. If you're a heterosexual male trying to meet women in this modern day hip hop culture, and you don't got a lot of gold chains, you ain't tatted up and you ain't tough, whoever can portray that image will get the girl before you. So what you see is all of these ball players, rappers secretly want to be ball players. So they hang with them and sit courtside with them. But it's a hierarchy, and they know, like, we up here. We gonna come watch y'all play though. And then the ball players understand, like, shit, we not them, but we fuck with them. So in this male hierarchy, you gotta be gangster nowadays. So if you're a young ball player and you just made it to the NBA, you got a big bag and you come from the hood, your goal is gonna be to show the NBA didn't make me soft. So you see ball players all the time keeping the same street persona that they had before they became a ball player. But here's where it don't make sense. Because we've seen all the basketball movies. We've seen draft night and all the behind the scenes stories. And they all the same. Little homie come from the hood. He struggled. And now he can finally buy mama that house. When he get drafted and get his jersey, mama be sitting there crying and shit. So we know we made it. We good now. But a part of his check is going to be synonymous with his popularity. You got social media now. So you got to be popping on social media. You got to have something going on to keep the people favoring you. Well, today's culture, the only thing going on is being gangster. And if you ain't that, you got to go the other route. You're either going to be the gangster or you're going to put the dress on. So these are slim pickings. This is what you face anytime you allow your enemy to create your options. So once your enemy gets the opportunity to create your options, then you face that old Democrat or Republican thing. You face that old Trump or Biden thing. Well, if you give me both of my options, do I really have an option? This is the Jedi mind trick. This is the banana in the tailpipe. You don't really have an option when, in order to be a female artist, you got to be damn near naked. In order to be a female ball player, most of them like girls. All of these things have spaces created around them and only allow certain entryways intentionally, because all of these are what we're going to show you tonight. Everything is controlled, and I'm going to prove it. You get in this headspace where you think a person made it to the NBA. Now they got complete control over, like, how about this? How about we be looking at the draft and we see all of these children enter the draft at all of these different positions, but only a certain amount of them can actually make it. And sometimes we even see a guy who doesn't get as good a stats as the guy that we like, and we wonder, and I've seen y'all, how the hell he get picked over dude and he woo woo woo. And it never dawned on you that there's a reason why this guy got picked, and it don't got nothing to do with the stats on this paper. Because you dwell on the surface and you don't think past the obvious. That's the reason why it's a draft and it's a lottery picking. There's more on the line than who's got the best stats. Everything about these people is grooming for later. There is no space. The reason why it's so hard for y'all to believe what I be saying, because y'all looking for this freedom space that in your mind has to exist. Because I hear y'all say this stupid shit all the time. Everything can't be rigged. I mean, damn, everything can't be fucked. I mean, damn, you act like people don't got talent. You want to cry me a fucking river? I didn't make the rules. I just play the game. Yes, everything is rigged. It is. And until you can prove that it's not, then how you going to make this statement? You speaking off of what you think. You got nothing invested in the journey of information. So how much validity can we put in what you're thinking? Until you're willing to put yourself out there, and that doesn't mean I'm always right, but it means I'm taking the journey. I got more invested in being right now than you do. If we look it up and find out you're wrong, you're just going to say, oh, damn, okay, my fault. If we look it up and find out I'm wrong, you're going to say, so you misleading the people. I got more invested in being right. We have to look beyond the surface and realize you don't set something like the NBA up and don't pick exactly who you want to go. And they've had 50, 60 years to perfect the wheel of in and out and who should get in and who shouldn't. So now, this is a culture driven off of two options. You're either going the gangster route, you're going to have 4-5 chains on, looking like a rapper, talking like you still a thug, even though you've been in the NBA 20 years. You all tatted up, you want to prove you still street, which is not what any of y'all said when y'all first made it. We all said we was trying to do this so we could get out the bullshit. And then we make the money and then we stick with the bullshit. But I ain't blaming you. I'm just telling you what you do because you're trying to do it. Now, what's the other option? You put the dress on. So now, that special space between a father and son, you know how they show you in the movies, you throw him his first baseball, you teach him how to throw a football, you know what I mean? You teach him how to shoot some baskets. Now we're taking that father and son thing and we're saying, okay, since we removed all the fathers, they can't have those father-son moments. So mostly what you see at these games, because I used to go down there, all my son in them games, I don't see fathers there that much. I see mothers in the stands. That's who's grooming your kids to get into sports, the mothers. And so now, since that's who you're going to be around anyway, it's okay for you to put a dress on. And we've convinced ourselves to say, people got the right to do what they want to do. That ain't my business. It's not your business because you don't understand what's going on. And if you did understand, you would never say it's not your business because it's you they're targeting. When you see, here's what y'all don't get. When you see a black man in a dress, an NBA player, that image went global. It doesn't matter what you think, feel, believe, or how the people in your world look at you. On the global stage, a message just got imprinted. You might not know what it means to see black men who've never openly been in dresses publicly to now you can't stop seeing it. And you don't think that the world stage doesn't understand what message that sends? So we got what, damn near 100 years in television, somewhere around there now, about 60 something years in television. And then 60 something, maybe 70 years in television. It took you the last 15 or 20. So that's what they call a new millennium. It took you to the new millennium, from the 50s to the new millennium. And we've been watching the whole time. It took you 50 some years to get black men in dresses. To y'all, that means the world's just changing. No, what that means is it took us 50 years. It was an experiment. It took us 50 years to publicly emasculate the African. That's what that means. It took us 50 years to publicly demasculate the African. You're not understanding that every race on this planet has enslaved you and has attempted to do this. And now it has publicly been done here for the world to see. This is the final phase of the new plan for you. And you don't understand that when people say you at risk of going back to slavery, slavery starts here first. Because the only way I can enslave you and make it stick is to convince you that I'm bigger than you. So slavery starts here first. And all that they've been doing is convincing you they're bigger than you. And the evidence shows, because they got you to wear a dress. And not only did they get you to wear a dress, the world's greatest warrior, they got you to wear a dress and defend the right to do so. They got you willing to now be impregnated like the woman. And it's on the public stage. So what you need to understand is someone put this together. Which means you're being controlled by things that you don't understand and are not willing to admit. This is not about men in dresses. This is about the fact that you are being wheeled into a certain direction and you don't even realize that's what's happening. That's the bigger problem. Because it could be a dress, it could be anything. We have to look what I can do moment. So the bigger issue is you don't understand you're being manipulated. And as long as you don't understand what I'm doing to you, I can do it as much as I want for as long as I want. This is hold on. Okay, here we go. This is what we're dealing with. The Human Show. Let's break down a flyer. Now, all of these were public, like pinups that I took down from various spaces. So this was something that was available to see publicly. The Planet Pride when I got off social media. So World at War. Then you got Pride. And you got Jesus. And this is what our world pushes. It pushes war, tampering with your sexuality, and religion. And who has the right to tell you any of these things? Why would your society promote any of these things? They got, if I'm not mistaken, and I forgot to get the article, maybe it's Target trying to come out with a rainbow children's line. I just told y'all last week. Y'all think I just say shit to say shit. I told you they're coming for our babies. And every time you complacent, because remember, a couple years ago, we was fighting about this shit when they was marching and having all this shit, and they was saying they under attack, and they was saying transgenderism don't got nothing to do with children, and so we not like that. And they was out there marching with all them signs. They was deep as hell, and the police was supporting them with their little cars with the rainbows on them. But then I looked it up, and I found out that in certain states trying to make it legal relationship between adults and children. There's a whole website on this. They're calling it a relationship. And there's a name for it. I can't think of it right now. But you told us this wasn't about the children. But now we got a rainbow clothing line because you say, why should we hide from them? Why should you include them? You're trying to influx adult level decisions and just place them in the way of the children, saying it's nothing wrong with it. Why is it nothing wrong with the children supporting something that you should only be able to make a decision about as an adult? But then we see the laws changing, and the law saying now the kids got the right to change their gender with the school if the parents go against it. Do you see where this is going? So they're promoting the clothing of changing your sexuality to children. Why are children? We talking about toddler size, infant size, onesies, and all the way up. Why do children need to get involved in any discussions about sexuality? I'm gonna tell you why. Because then they can pose the argument that you're born like this. And people will still argue this illogical fact that you're born like this. You can't be born like this. And I'm going to go on the record and say that. Why can't you be born like this? Because a woman is born with a vagina that goes in. A man is born with a penis that goes out. So you were born with something that goes inside of the thing that goes inside. There's no way around that until you learn that there are other possibilities. And that's being promoted on a societal level. But if that was not being promoted, it wouldn't happen. Because naturally, at some age level, little boys and little girls are going to get around each other, and it's just going to be a natural tension that they don't understand that makes him pull her hair and makes her say he's a dork, but she can't wait to see him the next day at school. That's natural, and it's inherent in children. What's not natural is any rainbow anything, because that's something that has to be taught to them. They're coming for your children. And you're going to keep supporting it, excusing it, talking about people got the right to do what they want to do. They got the right to do what they want to do until that shit start involving my children. Then I revoke all rights for any motherfucking body. Once they start talking about my children, I'll revoke the rights for anybody to do any motherfucking thing. Period. But let's get to the root of these things.
the same time that John D. Rockefeller seized U.S. media, he also hijacked U.S. medicine. When it was discovered that drugs could be produced from petroleum, America's top oil mogul ordered his army of propagandists to invert reality accordingly. Medicines used for thousands of years were suddenly classified as alternative, while the new, petroleum-based, highly addictive, and patentable drugs were declared the gold standard. After buying the German pharmaceutical company that manufactured chemicals of war for Adolf Hitler, Rockefeller leveraged his political influence by pressing Congress to declare natural healing modalities unscientific quackery. Rockefeller then took control of the American Medical Association and began offering massive grants to top medical schools under the mandate that only his approved curriculum be taught. Any mention of the healing powers of herbs, plants, and diet was erased from most medical textbooks. Doctors and professors who objected to Rockefeller's plan were crucified by the media, removed from the AMA, and stripped of their license to teach and practice medicine. Those who dared to speak out were arrested and jailed. When evidence began to emerge that petroleum-based medicines were causing cancer, Mr. Rockefeller founded the American Cancer Society, through which he suppressed that information. John D. Rockefeller is duly credited as the
Okay, so what I want y'all to hear is this was a two-part system. Y'all don't be thinking outside the box. So what did he do first? He locked down media. And then he switched the medicine. And he used media to promote the ideology of the new medicines. Now, it sounds like good business. It sounds brilliant. But what really happened? He found that petroleum was more harmful and more addictive, and you could stretch the dope with it. So, y'all remember, we always talk about the Salem witch hunts. That was right prior to and during the second slavery, the transatlantic, because once they captured all of the warriors, they had to get the women too. And a lot of our women was off up in the hills and shit, you know, working with the medicine. So they deemed y'all witches, hunted y'all down, tortured you. That's what why they was burning witches at the stake. They was torturing y'all for information. Witches means black women. The African women and the indigenous African women that was here in America. Remember, in the Haitian Revolution, we poisoned them. The queens knew spells. We live off the land. We understand what plant do this, what herb do that. They from the mountains. They don't know nothing about roots, plants, and herbs. So how'd they find out? Your modern medicine, they just told you. They took all the good shit and threw it out. How they know what the good shit was? They learned it from you. So once they learned what did what, they got rid of you, deemed all your good shit bad, and took over. And what was the catalyst? Oh, excuse me, y'all. What was the catalyst that made this plan really work? Media. Because the media curves public opinion. Y'all keep thinking you can't be manipulated, and that's why your ass get manipulated so much. If the media didn't work, they wouldn't use it. If rap music didn't make black people do stupid shit, they wouldn't use it. You look at rap music, you see all the murder, and you still be telling your dumb ass self, Man, that shit don't motivate me. People do what they want to do. Are you fucking kidding me? How blind can we be? That shit is just ignorance. Like if rap music didn't kill 1,000 niggas a day, it wouldn't exist. You would never hear a music glorifying white people killing each other. It'll never happen. Because they understand that. The only music on the planet that exists about murder is the music you make. And we know you ain't the only person committing murder on the planet. So how come you the only one choose to make music about the murders you commit? When every race on the planet commit murder and every race on the planet make music, how come you're the only one that thinks it's cool to sing about killing your own kind? And it's conveniently controlled by people who we know don't like you. And for some reason, you can't make the connection. Rap is another form of media. It's how you spread the word. It puts on display for the whole world to see how you are being controlled. Excuse me. Lower level people think you cool. The billionaires know exactly what happened. We're using these niggas. So the media taught y'all that all the bullshit ass drugs was what's good for you. All of these dumbass aspirin commercials, ibuprofen commercials, all of these commercials, you got a backache. They show you the little graph where your back is hurting that on a little cartoon thing, and then people come in and you take the medicine and you wake up in the morning, your back feels great. Commercial goes off. You go right to Walgreens or whatever your local pharmacy is and get you some of them to get your back. And then you wonder why you done took the whole fucking bottle and got to buy another one. The person on the commercial took 4 of the motherfuckers, went to sleep, woke up, and was stretching. Media. When you control the media, you control public opinion. If you control public opinion, that's everything. So that's why anything they run past you, they put it through the media first. But now we're going to dig in. We're going to get to the thick of this thing. I went back and I called this the human show because I took the ideology from the Truman Show. And so, shit, it's probably been about 20 years or some shit. I went back and I watched it again. Woo! I definitely didn't know what the fuck I was looking at the first time. Oh my goodness gracious. I can't wait till we get to the level where my all of us watch movies to you can get some enjoyment out of them because I still enjoy movies, but I'm also looking for something with every movie I watch. There's no movie I watch and don't look for the hidden messages while I'm enjoying it. That's impossible for me. You can enjoy it, but look for the bullshit. And once you know what to look for, you're gonna start finding a plethora of hidden shit. Now, this Truman Show, they literally aspirin in the 80s almost took out the whole country. Showing the fuck did. And then you had some sicko that was poisoning the pill and they didn't know which bottle was in. People was dropping dead. And I don't think it was some sicko, but whatever. But now, so the Truman Show basically told you the world that you live in. And people thought they were saying this how the world was going to be. I mean, the world is definitely like that now, but it was like that when they made the motherfucking movie. And for those who haven't watched it, we'll get I got something for y'all that's gonna break it down. Matter of fact, let's just do that. For anybody who haven't watched it, or if you have watched it, I got something for y'all. And then we gonna I got something for y'all, and we gonna hold on, I'm trying to find something. My fault, y'all. Okay. Here we go. I couldn't find my shit, man. Okay, so now, all right, I got it. So now, what I want y'all to do is rock with me on this, and we're gonna pause it and stop it a couple times and deal with it.
It's incredibly rare for a film to be as funny, cohesive, beautifully paced, and rich in detail as The Truman Show. However, it's even rarer for a movie to go beyond this and give accurate prophetic insights about the world. 20 years later, and The Truman Show's allegorical message is more relevant than ever. But the only way we can truly understand its meaning is by diving into the story. The film begins with a monologue from Christoph, who sets up the main premise of the movie. Truman is the unwitting star of a reality TV show centered around his life. Truman, a child abandoned at birth, has been brought up to believe that he is a normal guy living in the idyllic town of Sea Haven Island. However, Truman's entire world is a lie. All the people he knows, including his mother, his best friend, and his wife, are all paid actors. Sea Haven Island is also fake, and is in reality just a huge set enclosed by a massive dome. This gives Christoph, the director of The Truman Show, almost complete control over Truman's world. This ranges from the ability to control the weather, to the day-night cycle, and even the stars in the sky. Truman's every moment is broadcast around the world, with extra funding from the show coming from product placement. From the start of the film, we see a
Now here's the it's sideways. I should have turned it. My fault, y'all. But they made sure to show you. See, in a movie, everything they show you is for a reason. If they didn't want you to see this, they wouldn't have showed it to you. They showed you that his world was built inside of a dome. They showed you that on purpose. I keep trying to tell y'all. Also, I was watching the Hunger Games, and y'all know in that last Hunger Game, when she shot the arrow up too far, it hit the dome and short-circuited everything. So they put these things in these movies for a reason. When you look at the Walt Disney logo, they put it inside that little dome thing. This is for a reason. But now, let's get back to this. Like y'all see, the premise is dude was born on a TV show his whole life. From the moment he was born all the way until he like 33, he is being watched by the whole world. It's like the #1 TV show in the world. You're watching everything he go through. But Truman is a metaphor for us. I was watching Enemy of the State with Will Smith. And once it kicked off and they started trying to figure out who he was, they was able to follow him from when he stepped 1 foot out of the lingerie store. They follow him anywhere he went on camera. You're being watched every second of your life. And they say when you step out your house. But if you haven't put tape, if you haven't taken a strip of black tape and put it over your laptop when you ain't using it, then you're being watched when you're in your house too. See, if you got a camera that you can turn on, you're just training me to think it can only come on if I hit a button. You can be watched every second of your existence. Why? What's the need for that? But your Bible tells you your God is a jealous God. And we're going to deal with that too. When you come outside, every traffic light got dome cameras. Every store. So if the cameras is all on the lights, And there's traffic lights through every neighborhood. And street light in every neighborhood. They got the cameras on the street light poles. They got cameras on the street light poles. They got cameras on the traffic light poles. And they got cameras outside of every storefront. So you can literally be watched every fucking second once you leave out your house. But how'd that happen? Well, after 9/11, with the Patriot Act, you willingly as American citizens signed over your right to be spied on, because they told you it was national security, and since our country is under a threat, we can't trust y'all. So we got to be able to see everything for the security of the nation. And you fell for that. So now for the security of the nation, once the threat was over with, well, nobody's coming to get the cameras back. They're up there now. So once you gave over your right to be spied on, you didn't sign anything that says y'all can only spy on us for a certain time period, then it goes back to normal. You just said, we agree with y'all. We don't feel safe. Do what you got to do. That's what you signed. Okay, so now that's what they do.
In Truman's bathroom mirror, where Truman is pretending to be an explorer whilst getting ready for work. It's as though this is just another regular day for Truman, with him saying hello to his neighbors, making a coffee, and getting into his car. But just as he's getting into his car, a stage light drops from the sky right onto the road outside of his house. Truman then walks over to inspect the light and sees that it says Sirius on it, referring to the brightest star in the night sky. But eerily, on his drive to work, the radio starts to run a story about a plane wreckage falling from the sky in order to explain the light.
Here's a news flash just then. An aircraft in trouble began shedding parts as it flew over Sea Haven just a few moments ago.
It then starts to talk about the dangers of flying, which is one of the first of many subtle ways that Christoph tries to influence.
Okay, well, let's look at this though. So they're looking at his daily patterns. And through knowing his daily patterns, they can analyze his thought process and try to stay a step ahead of him. So everywhere he goes, there's some form of media pushing him in the opposite direction mentally of what he really wants to think or do. So now, they showed you a poster about flying and how dangerous it is. So now you got to ask yourself, in your day-to-day, how many things like this are put in your path to garner a certain thought process from you? How many commercials come on that are merely there because every commercial, see, we don't get to the nitty-gritty and just analyze things properly. Okay, so you see a commercial and I hear y'all say shit like, it's just a commercial. You fucked up already. There's no such thing as just a commercial. Do you know how fucking much money it costs to get a commercial in regular rotation so your ass gonna see it? That costs thousands of dollars. That takes planning, a strategy, a business plan, and some money to the side. You think people are going through all of that for just a commercial? So when y'all say shit like that, you've already lost the thinking war. Because there's no such thing as just a commercial. Every single fucking commercial you've ever seen was put in your path to make you think and feel a certain way. That's the purpose of commercials. And they generally lead to sales. So if your commercials is not leading to financials, You're bullshit. So the commercial and the poster both are suggesting that he not do what he should be doing. How many posters and commercials are designed to get you to do what you shouldn't be doing? People not spending their money on nothing. Y'all say videos don't influence y'all. Nobody's spending $30,000 on a video that's not gonna influence you. Are you fucking weird? Videos be costing 20, 30, 40, 50,000, $100,000. You think somebody spent $100,000 on a video not to influence you? Jay-Z showed us the first $1 million hip-hop video with Big Pimpin'. For the next 3 years, what was the #1 slogan in Black America? Big Pimpin'. How much money did he make off of that? That song took over the country. $1 million well spent. People don't do nothing for nothing. You just do, so you think everybody participates in this line of thinking.
Into staying on the island through fear. He is being subconsciously controlled by the radio. This subconscious manipulation then continues throughout the film. Like when Truman is asked by his boss to deal with something that will require a boat trip. By doing this, the boss is setting up Truman's aquaphobia, as we see he is unable to even get in the boat. A phobia that's later revealed to be another subconscious manipulation of Truman. This whole day feels very strange for Truman, so he hurriedly comes back to his wife Meryl, who then conspicuously shows off her new kitchen tool that she bought at the store, showing it off almost like she's advertising it.
It's a dicer, grater, peeler all in one. Never need sharpening, dishwasher safe.
Truman becomes suspicious, and when out with his best friend Marlon, Truman's behavior starts to be off, and he brings up his desire to leave and go to Fiji. Marlon catches that Truman is starting to wake up, so he quickly shoots down the idea. He doesn't want Truman escaping. That would break the whole game. In the next scene, we see Truman go off to spend some time on the beach, where he remembers the tragic boat accident that seemingly killed his father and gave him his aquaphobia. Christoph then even heightens Truman's misery by adding a specific path of rain to follow Truman, and with Truman's breakdown growing, we see the audience's engrossed reactions. It's all these early scenes that serve to illustrate that the fictional Truman Show can only function when Truman buys into this false reality. The Truman Show, therefore, has to make sure that Truman can't escape his cage, or even see that he's in a cage. If he knows that he's in a cage, the whole game collapses. The ways that Christoph keeps Truman deluded are the most striking aspects of the allegory. The most obvious and egregious of these is how Truman is kept complacent by exploiting his deepest fears. For example, Truman's aquaphobia works perfectly to keep Truman on the island. Christoph even risks Truman overcoming this fear when he sends Truman to unsuccessfully board the boat. The fact that Truman can't overcome his phobia only reinforces this. Truman is also constantly barraged by propaganda and subliminal messages to induce a fear of flying. There are constant reminders of the dangers of flying. It takes this rampant fear-mongering to keep Truman's delusion alive. However, this time the propaganda starts to weaken. Truman still fantasizes about taking a flight to Fiji. His aquaphobia is still strong, but it's revealed that this is most likely because it originates from the undressed guilt over Truman's father's death. But it's not just the fear that influences Truman. The control that Christoph has over his world is total. Everything Truman takes in on a daily basis is designed with a secret purpose. The TV he watches reinforces the message. The media always has headlines directly promoting whatever they want Truman to believe. Even the people that Truman talks to on a daily basis spout the same canned lines and positive affirmations. Propaganda is seeping into every aspect of Truman's life and society.
You thinking of flying somewhere?
Nope.
Oh, good.
A lot like its infiltration of our society. Just like Truman, we're always bombarded with propaganda just to keep us complacently unaware of the delusions of modern ideology. Every day society tells us who we are, what we ought to do, and who our enemies are. Just like Truman, we're encouraged to ignore the clues that we're living in a lie, where we're made to still become wages in the matrix, and then everyone who buys into the societal delusion helps perpetuate it. This means that lots of well-meaning, rational people are swept up to become mouthpieces of a failing system.
Now, I want to deal with that. Like he said, we basically, throughout our day-to-day and our actions, we repeat the lie. So just by being complacent, you're being consensual. So you have one end where you're saying you want to be free and you're tired of being treated this way, but your behavior is perpetuating the treatment. This is a societal thing. The purpose of the news is to get you to feel a certain way. It's why you have a Democratic channel and a Republican channel. And both channels feed you what you want to hear. The Republican news tells you all the Democrats are bad, think this way. And then the Republican channel tells you all the Republicans are bad, think this way. And you get into debates at work in different environments, and the only thing you really have to offer is to spew out the other side's talking points that you heard on these various networks. And whoever has heard the most off of their network and can spew it out the best is perceived to be correct. When in reality, neither one of you are right. Because this is what you're supposed to do in a system. This is a system, and we got to catch on, acknowledge that, and move in that way that we understand this is a system.
Present in both reality and fiction. They just exist solely on the personal level for Truman, rather than the societal level that we're starting to see. But what is the society-wide delusion? Well, in The Truman Show, it's obvious and literal. It's the premise of the movie. The Truman Show is a reality show. But how does this translate into our real world? Well, this is where it gets interesting. The habitus is a tool used by sociologists for describing the ways in which a society's culture functions. Society rests upon an enormous amount of unsaid rules and expectations. These are often performed without thinking about them. It's more like a learned skill than a conscious decision. Bourdieu, the French intellectual who brought the term to prominence, often compared it to sports. People tend to know the rules of the game. For example, it's generally accepted that when you're finished at the supermarket, you return your shopping cart. There's no personal reward or egotistic incentive, it's just a learned polite expectation. In the context of the supermarket though, it's very important. The whole system would collapse without it. Some abstracts of the habitus are nearly invisible because they seem so natural to us.
Hey, that's dope as hell, y'all. I had to stop it for a second, my fault. But just think about that. I never even thought about that. Your grocery store parking lot has made you a free employee in an aspect that if you were to refuse this, the entire system would collapse. And it's something as simple as they built a little lane for you to put your shopping cart there. Go put it there. Now, we'll send somebody out every couple hours to make it neat and get the spare parts, but it's really your responsibility to do our job and keep our parking lot clean so you can park there and come give us your money. And I know what y'all gonna say, well, why wouldn't we? I don't want to crash into something or the part. If we don't do it, then that cart's gonna be everywhere. That's not our fucking problem. If you built a facility with carts and spaces, then it's your job to make sure that the carts and the parking spaces don't intermingle. But what you did was you made it our unsaid responsibility, and we even look at each other rude. We police each other. If somebody take their cart and just leave it out in the middle, we call them lazy and like, damn, put your cart up. Not realizing it's no one's job that leaves out of that place to put their fucking cart up. Now, we're not saying whether it's the right thing to do or not. We're talking about the way things work. They've set aside an unsaid rule, and you don't even know it. You unwillingly follow suit. It's like, I know y'all experienced this. Let's say you're getting ready to get off the highway and you see a lane. You see there's two lanes, but one lane is backed all the way up. And so you thinking, since everybody is in this lane, it must be something wrong with the other one. And so I peek and I say, fuck it, I'm gonna take a chance. And I go and I get all the way to the front and there's nothing in the other lane. But people dare not break suit for fear of what could be. This is how they do you with everything. Please hit the like. Please hit the share. This is how they do you with everything. Control.
Taste in music or food are influenced by the habitus. This is because the cultural expectations that the habitus instills go so deep. They're established from the moment you're born, reinforced throughout your childhood by your family, and then further built upon by your education and work. This then makes the habitus a self-perpetuating structure. Those brought up in certain habitus will nurture its specific values in their children, for example, making sure the cycle continues. The Truman Show gives a literal picture of what a habitus can look like. We can see all the actors in the fictional Truman Show as being sucked into this. The actors act in certain learned ways in order to perpetuate the essence of the Truman Show. Now, the key difference between fiction and reality is the incentive. Literally, the actors in the fictional Truman Show are being paid to play their parts, but in the real world, people play their parts in the habitus because the habitus itself has conditioned them into it. Everyone is one of the actors. Everyone makes the delusion real. And what the Truman Show goes on to tell us is that when the habitus has been altered into something too detached from an authentic society, cracks start to show, when lies start to perpetuate, when the ego gets in the way, when power corrupts, the habitus starts to break, and this ripples throughout entire civilizations. See, throughout the movie's progression, we see Truman gradually wake up to the delusion that has consumed his life, which inevitably causes a breakdown of.
So this is the most key component. This can't exist without your participation. And the more you wake up to what's going on, the less effective the system becomes on you. And then the system will start to expose itself for what it really is. You just have to take the initial steps and pay attention. And then stuff will start to come all over the place. And then you start to look like, okay. And they showed you a reference with the Matrix. What is the Matrix telling you? You live in an illusionary existence that's controlled. That's exactly what the Truman Show is telling you. How many movies have they made to tell us in one way or another, we live in a controlled existence? And then people say, if that was what they was really doing, they wouldn't tell us. That's not true. The way they're escaping, or the way they believe they're escaping karma, is because they tell us what they're doing and we give them permission to do it. So how can you get galactic punishment when everything you're doing, the people you're doing it to, are not only allowing it? In most cases, we're fucking begging for them to do it. All they do is present us with a struggle, and then we beg them to make it stop. Every time. Y'all know this by now, rocking with me. Hegelian dialect: problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, get the reaction, then create the solution for the problem that you created. And that gives you a God complex because they just saved you again. Doesn't matter that they saved you from the shit that they created. They create the crack epidemic, then get funding for drugs to stop it, to make it stop. This shit is a game. It's a game. Now, okay, let's get back to this.
Habitus. The further Truman moves towards truth, the faster the delusion collapses, and thus the more resistance he faces.
The further he moves towards truth, the faster it collapses. Remember that. The further you move towards truth, the faster the bullshit around you collapses.
Our world is just as deluded as the one in the Truman Show. This is because what's valuable culturally has been drastically changed by reality TV and social media. The Truman Show almost predicted this with its commentary on reality TV. The vapid values of reality TV expanded to shape the entire habitus, now limited to reality TV, and this doesn't seem too harmful. But it gets so much worse when you consider this in our own reality, especially with the effects of social media on our values. Nowadays, everyone's the star of their own reality TV show. People project vapid and and unattainable standards by advertising a fake life on social media.
That 14-year-old girls who use social media more than 5 hours a day saw a 50% spike in depression symptoms.
This feeds into people's values. They see other people's fake lives and hold their own up to the same standard. These people then perpetuate the cycle, which then brings the habitus further and further away from authenticity and truth. Corporatization of society is then also reflected in the habitus of both the
I hope y'all catching this. He's saying some heavy shit. And it's the same shit I've been telling y'all. Social media. You're feeding the monster, and everybody is living a fucking lie. I see, like, we're so caught up in the delusion, you damn near can't correct it. Like, it's so many things that we do for outward attention, and we excuse it by saying we're doing it for self. We're not doing it for the attention, we're doing it just because. You are doing it for self, but you're definitely doing it for the attention. Anything you do that draws attention towards yourself, you knew prior to doing it, or hoped prior to doing it, that it would garner you some attention. From the wardrobe we wear, the shoes we wear, the things that we showcase on social media and want people to look at. And then people call you on it and you say, that's not what I was trying to do. The only reason why you put a picture on social media is for people to look at it. And there is no one that takes a picture for social media and doesn't extremely analyze the picture before they put it up. Because you understand you're putting it up for people to see you, and you want to convey a certain message. This is the machine that has us so thirsty for this attention that we are willing to do this, confuse ourselves, lie about it, or we maybe not even be lying. We don't even know the truth because it's the machine feeding us these ideologies. You have to have these many likes to be important. And then once we try one angle and that doesn't work, after a while, it gets a little lonely seeing everybody else as you scrolling, getting all this attention, and you're not. So then you start looking for a way to mix what they're doing with what you're doing and get a little couple likes your way. And then your whole existence becomes predicated on whether I get some hearts or some likes. Or now they took it up a notch. Now they got the views. Now you can get the hearts and the likes, and you can see how many people actually viewed it. And now this becomes your existence. Because if you're not getting the views, the hearts, and the likes, you're going to constantly be trying to find ways to do it. And then that's when you see men start putting on wigs and dresses, and women start getting naked, trying to find a way to up the views and likes to get someone to say, hey, what you're doing is pretty cool. That's all you want. A couple people to look at what you're doing and say, hey, that's pretty cool. Same here with me. I post my flyers. Whatever I post on social media, I'm not doing it for y'all not to look at it. And I'm not posting nothing that I haven't overly analyzed before y'all see it, because I'm trying to gauge how y'all gonna feel. So we all are in denial of the fact that this social media and the way that we would like to be viewed has completely taken control of us. But someone's controlling that, and that's the issue. So now you're looking at your whole lifestyle as you spend your whole life chasing a feeling, and that's a drug. This feeling is through whatever I post, I need to be accepted for how I think people should see that. And we're all chasing that high. And it'll make us turn on each other. It'll make us lie to each other. It'll make us do all kind of shit to get that high of acceptance through media. And so they flipped the script on you, and they started it with reality TV. And so reality TV and social media are synonymous, because media used to be them telling us. Now it's called social media. So everyone is their own reporter and their own talk show host. So now the world is laden with opinions from uneducated viewpoints. And whoever can grab your attention and garner enough views, likes, and hearts, you're going to deem that person worthy of leading you to wherever you're trying to go. Doesn't matter what you know about that person, whether they're a good person, whether they're a sicko, psychotic, any of that shit. We just seen a woman lead y'all for the last a dude lead y'all for the last 5 years who turned out to be a womanizing, cheating, all kind of shit, contradicting everything that he's teaching the black woman. But because he was attractive in front of the camera, he's a good orator, and he had a good spiel, people got captivated by that and completely rearranged their existence. That was his purpose. Anytime you cut this on, what am I doing right now? I'm not talking so you don't watch. I'm not saying things to make you lose. I'm not intending to say things to make you lose interest. The whole ideology of me being in front of this camera is to garner more attention for whatever else I got going on. Good thing is trying to educate and be positive, but it didn't have to be. It could have been something else. We have to stop downplaying the power of the corrupt society that we are all being nurtured in. It's corrupt and it's controlled, and it always has been. And it is pride that has us scared to admit that. Because if we admit that, then we have to admit where we fucked up at and go back and start undoing some shit. And we got too much invested in that because the way we've been doing things has been controlling the people in our world. So once we admit that these things are wrong, in our mind, we're going to lose this control. The reality is we must address this space because we all have been raised wrong on false principles and ideologies. So if we don't come back to the table and say, hey, we all been learning the wrong shit for the last however many years, last 50 years, last 30 years of social media, it's been all wrong. It's been corrupted. Our whole thinking, the way we address each other, the way we see each other, the way we feel about each other, our level of trust for each other, all of that has been given to us via a hip-hop culture and social media. The hip-hop culture and social media has shaped the last 30 years of our lives. And if we can admit that, then we can admit that we don't control the hip-hop culture or social media. Two things that are heavily laced with black people, but we have zero control over them. I won't say zero. We can control what we put on there. But we don't even understand that aspect. The problem always occurs when we can't. Every journey starts with self. So before any of this shit I'm saying can resonate anywhere, each individual listening to me has to come to a space where they completely analyze what I'm saying and find the worth in it. And if you find the worth in it, then you have to be real and deal with that. Please hit the like, please hit the share. We got 30 more minutes and we need 30 more bodies. Fuck it, let's get it. Now, this white dude cooking. Let's get it.
And in our own society. In The Truman Show, the effects are obvious. Truman's wife is constantly advertising and shitting brands. It's almost a learned response that has been ingrained into her.
You really ought to throw out that mower. Get one of those new elk rotaries.
Which is why at this point, Truman is actively interrogating her on the lie that they've been living. In response, Truman's wife defaults to an almost robotic speech about a coffee brand. This is the habitus failing. Truman's wife is so deeply submerged in the Truman Show delusion that she has no other response. She just keeps reading the same script. But it's so much worse in our own society where our habitus is so heavily corporatized, with corporate values being held in such a high regard that we value our careers more than our families. Never before in history has this happened. Truman's suspicions of reality are then brought up again when his father, who he assumes is dead, shows up on his way to work dressed as a beggar.
Dad?
Truman's father is then quickly whisked away on a bus, but not before Truman sees his face. He realizes something is up, so he goes to talk to his mother, who tries to explain away his father's reappearance by suggesting that he's just crazy and hallucinated it. This time, it doesn't convince Truman, who also notices how often his wife name drops brands. As Truman starts to go through his old things, the movie flashes back to Truman's college years and a chance encounter he had with a woman named Lauren. Lauren's meant to be a background character, but the two sides meet across the room. They share a conversation in a romantic moment on the beach. Lauren then goes out of character to try to reveal to Truman that his whole reality is fake.
Listen to me. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows everything you do. They're pretending, Truman. Do you understand? Everybody's pretending.
Lauren, who reveals her real name as Sylvia, tries to explain that Truman's world is a lie, but then again she stops short by a man saying he is her father and that she's just talking nonsense. As Truman starts to think back to this, it's revealed that he still longs to see Sylvia, with him even recreating her face from fashion magazines, because Sylvia is the only thing that's real in this fake world. It's then later revealed that Truman is obsessed with Fiji, as Sylvia is reported to be moving there. Truman then starts to see more and more suspicious things. His radio specifically describes his every move in an apparent malfunction.
Okay, he's making his turn onto Lancaster Square.
Truman's also seeing every part of the background set, but he's always escorted away from it. This sequence of events brings his suspicions to a breaking point, as Truman concludes that it seems that his entire world revolves around him in some weird way. Fearing that he's going crazy, he brings up these questions to Marlon, his best friend, who then just tries to brush it all off. And in response to his increased suspicion, Truman's then further barraged by suggestions that everything is just fine, that he's just being weird. His mother then shows fake pictures of him at Mount Rushmore, and even the TV runs a program about the benefits of a small town life. But by now, things don't work like they used to. He's seeing the society that he lives in starts to crack. It's also laughable and ridiculous. This whole thing is a facade. And now that Truman is waking up to this reality, the lullabies of deception can't draw him back to sleep. After noticing that his wife is crossing her fingers in his wedding pictures, Truman follows her to work. Despite multiple attempts by extras to delay and stop Truman from seeing the surgery that his wife is helping with, Truman breaks into the hospital and sees the fake surgery being played out by actors who have no idea what they're doing. Determined to leave, Truman then visits a travel agency. By this point, Truman's had enough. He's determined to leave. He wants to escape this sick society, so he tries to book a flight to Fiji, but the clerk says they're all sold out for at least a month. So then Truman tries to get a bus out, but it conveniently breaks down just before leaving. Truman then, sitting in a car at home, waits for his wife to come back from work. When she does, she gets in the car with him as he points out the clockwork regularity of the people who go past their road. Unsatisfied with her unrealistic reaction to this, Truman then locks the car and takes Meryl on an impromptu road trip. To everyone around him, he seems like he's having a breakdown. He's breaking the rotten habitus surrounding him. But then instantly, traffic jam starts, stopping Truman in his tracks. Truman then pretends to go back home, which disperses the traffic completely, but then turns right around and makes his way out of the suburbs and onto the road. Once they reach the bridge which stands between Truman and the mainland, it seems that his conditioned aquaphobia will stop his escape plan. All the conditioning and propaganda is the only barrier to his freedom. However, Truman overcomes his fears by closing his eyes.
Now, what he said right there was dope. Hold on, I wanna play it one more time. Hold on.
Steer the car while he holds down the accelerator. Once they're over the bridge, which stands between Truman and the mainland, it seems that his conditioned aquaphobia will stop his escape plan. All the conditioning and propaganda is the only barrier to his freedom. However, Truman overcomes his fears by closing his...
He said all the conditioning and propaganda is the only barrier to his freedom. So if you take away how you've been conditioned through this fake ass tough guy harlot rap culture, you remove the barriers of how you think black people supposed to think and behave. So you don't even understand. You live in a box that says this how we supposed to be. So even if you don't wear exactly the same thing, you're wearing what black folks wear in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's the newer version, the older version, your own version, you're wearing what black folks wear. You're doing mostly what black folks do. You work mostly the kind of jobs that black folks should be working. There's a box and a bubble that's been placed around your existence, and you stay in it. Because and this is how I know you stay in it. Because if you were as different as you thought, all of y'all think y'all so much different than the next person. If we all were as different as we thought, it wouldn't be just one thing containing us. They got 1, 2 blueprints, and they keep recycling you through one side or the other. That means all of the people you ever met in your life that said, I ain't like the next dude, or I ain't like the next chick, they was lying. Because if they all wasn't so much alike, you wouldn't all be so easy to control with the exact same bait. They use the same bait for you. They haven't switched up in damn near 100 years. So how could you be as different as you think? Now, on the inside, you're different. You are. I'm not going to take that from you. You're a celestial being. You are definitely different. But you're caught up in this matrix. And so, therefore, until you break that, like he just said, that conditioning is what's holding you and keeping you in the realm of regularity. Once you break the conditioning, then you can see your full potential. And then you start thinking different. We start moving different. Then they have to switch the playbook because it's like, okay, they're not falling for the typical do drugs and party bullshit no more. They're not falling for the gangster thug shit no more. We can't slut the women out no more. We can't make the black men kill each other no more. The drug thing ain't working. They're gonna have to come with a whole new playbook. While they trying to figure that out, that gives us time to regroup. But we gotta get out of that mind state first.
Forcing Meryl to steer the car while he holds down the accelerator. Once they're over the bridge, other obstacles are set up by Christoph to try and stop Truman from leaving. Truman even drives through wildfire, but is stopped by a roadblock due to a convenient leak at the nearby power plant. In desperation, Truman tries to get through on foot, but is tackled and subdued by men in hazmat suits, who take him back home. The implausibility of all these events cement Truman's skepticism of the world around him, which brings up the question, how many so-called emergency events in our own world could be equally implausible? All the lies told by our media, all the false narratives pushed onto us, all the divisions sowed by algorithms in the news, all these layers of fallacy that have been embedded into every aspect of society. We all have the means to stop this nonsensical fictional reality that we abide by, and yet we choose not to confront it. When anyone does, they are breaking the habitus surrounding them, which threatens the whole house of cards that society is built on, which is why true authentic reality is always outrunning our apprehension. So then how can we ever know the truth when the lens we look through is tainted by a corrupted habitus, tainted by all the models and distractions that we don't even acknowledge? If we can't comprehend true reality, we no longer know what truth is. We don't have a grasp on what our values really are. And it's this flattening of our values, of our society, of our culture that dampens our outrage and emotion. Everything becomes muted by our postmodern reality. In The Truman Show, Truman's deserved outrage at the cage he has been trapped in is never tapped into. He's never angry, instead he's always left in a state of confusion and distraction. He's meant to feel crazy by searching for the truth. This is because for the show to be successful, it relies on Truman and his belief in the society around him. If he starts questioning this, then society goes down with him. So society has to prevent him from questioning the habitus he is surrounded by. Everything becomes muted by our postmodern reality. In The Truman Show, Truman's deserved outrage at the cage he has been trapped in is never tapped into. He's never angry, instead he's always left in a state of confusion and distraction. He's meant to feel crazy by searching for the truth.
Okay, always left in a state of confusion and distraction. Y'all over here cooking in the comment section. My fault. I be zoned out. He's left in a state of confusion and distraction. So think about your day to day. It's all about distracting you and confusing you because you value all the wrong shit. And the time that you're not spending valuing all the wrong shit, you're spending working for the machine. So half of your time is spending working for the machine. The other time is getting caught up in the deceptions of it. And they keep you constantly there. So they brought you something called reality TV, but it's scripted. Let's just think about that. See, when you allow certain shit, it almost guarantees more shit's coming. So let's look at this. In the beginning, we all thought reality TV was real. Halfway through, we learned that reality TV was scripted, and we kept watching it. You don't, and then y'all said, I'm just watching it for entertainment, but you don't understand how the mind works. So look at this. When you initially started watching it, you thought it was real. Now, you find out that it's not. But you're 2 seasons in. So you can't turn that off. You're going to, woo, I must be cooking. You're going to carry on, still caught up in this drama like it's a real thing, but it's scripted. So when we found out reality TV was scripted and we didn't stop watching it, that said, on a large scale, we're okay with knowingly being deceived. As long as it's entertaining us, we're okay with knowingly being deceived. And we're even naive enough to believe that once they realize that reality TV was good enough for us to fall for and think that it was real, they knew we wouldn't make the connection when they start scripting some of these natural events that we thought was real. Sandy Hook. So that's the problem. When you stand for something, or like my boy Stevie say, when you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. And they also said that this reality is completely reliant on the level of your belief. So they can only push this thing as far as you believe, which means we can sit around and complain about the level of deception in the world, and we would have every right to, as long as we understand that this level of deception in the world can only exist because we believe and participate in it.
This is because for the show to be successful, it relies on Truman and his belief in the society around him. If he starts questioning this, then society goes down with him. So society has to prevent him from questioning the habitus he is surrounded by. And are we any different? Is this why we live in a culture without soul or value? Where everything we think and do is shrink down by reductionism, where the phenomena of nature, personality, the essence of life is just reduced to statistics and banal labels. Our world is filled with mystery and wonder. It's filled with adventure, but our world is being reduced to nothing more than a banal monotonous cage, numbing us into this bored, flaccid, apathetic state, which is what the Truman Show tries to show us. Once home, Truman is now feeling like an animal in a cage. His wife, unable to calm him down, offers him some coffee with a less than subtle product placement. Truman immediately senses out the fact that she is performing for someone, and so he confronts her about it. He's starting to reject this ridiculous reality he is surrounded by, and because of this, he seems crazy, which is why then the actor of Truman's wife begins to break character and pulls out a sharpened kitchen utensil to defend herself. It's these sorts of cracks in the show that only happen when Truman stops believing in it. Like in our world, we're now starting to see the rise of political outsiders. We're seeing the rise of extremism and a general apathy of all the people who refuse to believe in our current system. With our government starting to collapse with war imminent, no one trusts our broken society. And in the case of the Truman Show, it's this unraveling madness that almost ends with Truman's wife revealing her acted role. Only until Truman's lifelong friend Marlon bursts in at the last minute and whisks Truman away to have a heart-to-heart conversation. But at this point, it's like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. The floodgates are now open, and Truman's belief is dwindling. In this scene, the two are sitting near the river and begin reminiscing. Christoph, through Marlon, reassures Truman that Truman's life has meaning and is normal. He comforts Truman by assuring him that if what Truman believed was real, then everyone would have to be in on it, including him. Though this isn't possible, as Marlon would never lie. On the surface, Truman seemingly takes this into heart, but deep down he knows that Marlon is just a victim of the game, and so he deliberately shows to him that he bought the ruse. He knows that Marlon isn't a bad person, but that he's not a real person. Morning arrives, and Truman seems to be back to his old self. He draws with a bar of soap on in the morning. He has the usual conversations with his neighbors and co-workers, and seems interested in a new office mate he will have next to him. Evening rolls around, and everything seems business as usual, with Truman fast asleep. However, Christoph is off. Truman fell asleep.
And now we must pause for the small commercial break. If you haven't had your delicious Fruity Pebbles treats, then you should know they're good. And they're made with, never mind, but nutritional facts. Never mind. But they're really good. If you're in my city, you should try some. If you're not in my city, you can still try some. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Basement rather than his bed, so Marlon is again sent over with a six-pack to investigate and talk Truman back to sense. However, this time he finds that Truman isn't there and has escaped from the house. Christoph calls for all actors to search for Truman, and for the first time in the show's history cuts the transmission. However, even with all the actors searching the entire set, Truman cannot be found. At his wit's end, Christoph has the set illuminated into daylight mode early, and on a hunch has the team begin looking through the cameras near the harbour and on the boat. After cycling through a few cameras, the team finds Truman aboard a sailboat, and Christoph gives the call to resume transmission. After a few moments of peace sailing, Christoph is then faced with a dilemma. He either continues the transmission at risk of Truman finding the truth, or he gets rid of Truman entirely. So he decides to send a violent storm above Truman's boat. Christoph increases the violence of the weather, but after a few long minutes, relents. Amidst this, Truman shows his willingness to die for the truth by shouting to the sky, "Is this the best you've got?" Christoph, in godlike stupor, descends to send the most violent bout of weather yet, all to the dismay of his crew and producer. Truman, however, holds on, but it's not.
Now, this is another societal moment. He's getting so close to the truth that they have decided it's worth risking it all to keep the truth from being exposed. So now, someone who they will watch born on the show and have raised him his whole life, they're decided they would rather drown his ass than have him find out the truth. So they hit him with a violent storm. Well, damn, I wonder, has that ever really happened? I wonder, have we ever gotten so close to the truth that our government decided to hit us with a violent storm? Or maybe a sickness? These are just hypothetical questions. Or maybe some buildings get blown up. I wonder, has our government ever done something like that? Now, let's go over here for a minute. The Queen. Now, here's something that caught my attention. Was a few things. Okay, now here's, I'm bogus for not turning these pictures around, y'all. I should have did that. Here's the girl that he can't stop thinking about. But when he meets her for the first time, look at what it says. How's it going to end? Now, this is a movie set. So anytime you see something on one of the characters, it was placed there intentionally. So this is more predictive programming to implement something in the back of his mind. So this is the girl of his dreams. He finally meets her. And what's the odds that coincidentally she has a button on that says, how's this going to end? He takes that as a sign. But he's being manipulated this entire time. Now, Here's something else that caught my attention. When they're showing you all of his fans around the world, they made sure to show you this couple. Now, this is a older lesbian couple. So the insinuation would be that they've been together for a while. So now to y'all would take the stance, what's wrong with that? Big deal. And every time you get emotional, you miss the point. Who the fuck said anything was wrong with it? That ain't the point. Everything you see in a movie is carefully placed there. So while they're showing, peep this, because this is important. While they're showing you a movie about media manipulation, they're actively using media manipulation to drive in the lesbian couple thing and make sure you get that imagery. That was done intentionally. Y'all may not think so, but I direct movies, and everything I put in the movie is because I want you to feel a certain kind of way when you see it. Or I wouldn't put it there. Film is expensive. We don't waste it just doing random shit. Now, damn, y'all cooking over here. I gotta go up. I ain't read none of this shit. I got guns with some eyeballs. I know they also got rid of news reporters in exchange for anchormen who repeat what's given to them. That's true. Oh, Down South Connect, what's happening, baby? I'm so bogus, y'all. Atlas, you CMB. Who is Atlas? I know that's one of my CMB brothers. They mad. I'm cooking. Miss Franklin, you know they always do that. Scripted reality. I'm late. Oh, that's my kinfolk. What's up, Courtney? That's the Queen Mother. Fucking good commercial. Many storms have been actually hit us because they knew it doing this. I think the storm was biblical reference to control of the narrative, no matter how crazy it sounds. I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna touch on that. Pop culture. Okay. There you go, God. Okay. Yeah, so that's why I kind of fucked up at good thing I came in the comment section. Y'all gave me some more shit that I was forgetting. So now I agree. Because you got this dude is playing God, clearly. He's controlling the weather. He's completely controlling every aspect of Truman's life. So this is Truman's God. So we can't overlook the Noah's Ark biblical reference with the boat and the storm. And so I definitely agree with that. Then he survived the storm, and then you got oh, here we go. I'm finna show y'all this too, and then I'm gonna get back to something else I wanted to deal with. Hold on. Okay, so now this is I just put this in there because I noticed like they made sure they showed y'all the sun is setting and the moon is taking over the sun. And I'm gonna show y'all why they did that. Okay, so now when he got off the boat, after the storm, he got to the end of this right here is a wall. It looks like clouds, but it's a wall. So he walked along the wall, and then there's a staircase. Now look how this staircase, you don't see nothing but a staircase that goes into the clouds. Now we can clearly see this is the Stairway to Heaven reference. Now, just to follow up and show you that I'm accurate, here's what follows afterwards. This is the clouds parting, and from the sun, this dude begins to speak to Truman. So now think about if you just a human and you walk and you get to the end of the clouds, and then there's a stairway going up into the clouds, and then the clouds part and the sun starts to speak to you, and then you look up like this. At this point, I'm talking to God. However, I'm talking to this guy. But what's in his background? In his background is the moon. And we know the moon god is Yahweh, aka the author of your Bible, aka the God of this planet. So when you see the stairway to heaven, the God reference, and this guy sitting in front of a Saturn moon is talking to him, and not a Saturn moon, this is the moon, but Yahweh is synonymous with the moon god and also Saturn. Saturn is Satan. We're talking about the same character. How you know I'm right? Because this guy is the guy who makes all the rules for Truman. Saturn is the rule maker. Judgment. Saturn is judgment. The black cube. That's why your judges and your all your authority figures wear black robes. The ruling and the judgment comes from black robes on this planet. That is connection with the black hole, aka the black cube, aka Saturn. So in a movie, they don't waste footage. They purposely showed you him in front of the moon for a reason. Then you got all the God references, and you realize you're dealing with another Saturnian Yahweh reference hidden inside the movie that tells you your entire life is being controlled. Also, when you go to that scene from The Matrix and you see the dude they call an architect in all white sitting in front of all of those TVs, and you see this guy sitting in front of the moon controlling people's fate, you're looking at the same character, because on the moon is where they're controlling this planet from. And y'all done heard me dig into the moon before, so I've already proven that the moon is not an original part of this planet. So the moon was not here upon the creation of the planet. Something else that I'm finna dig into, it might be next week's show, but I'm just finna hit y'all with a little jab. The moon is not an original aspect of this planet. It wasn't here when the planet first began. Also, all around this planet, we hear every civilization talks about this great flood. Well, look into how the shifting of the moon affects this planet and can flood the planet. So if the moon wasn't originally here, and yet the movement of the moon can shift and flood the planet, then could it be that whoever brought the moon here flooded the planet by doing so intentionally? Well, we're not going to deal with that right now. Anyway, back to what we back to. What I'm saying is, this was a movie, and this whole show, The Human Show, was to let you know that that's exactly what this is. This is a tell live vision program called The Human Show. And on it, we're in a controlled environment where the weather can be affected and we look up wondering what the fuck's going on while they dictate. That's what the human show is. It never goes off, and everyone's always watching. You're being controlled, because if you weren't, you outwardly see war everywhere. The fact that you don't see war every time you step outside, that means you're compliant with the system, because they want to take over. And if they're not whooping your ass every day, that means they're comfortable with where they got you. If it hasn't gotten physical yet, that means your level of compliance is okay with them. Because best believe, soon as you start disagreeing, you'll see you won't see these peaceful guys, these peaceful little chummy people that y'all see smiling all the time, giving you the thumbs up. That shit'll disappear overnight. Let you start thinking for your fucking self. This is a controlled situation. And like the queen has said, they got rid of the news reporters. Yeah, okay. Yeah, they got rid of the news reporters in exchange for anchormen who repeat what's given to them. So like, you've seen this in Spider-Man. You've seen this in the Superman cartoon. In the Superman cartoon, they always telling them, you better go get that scoop on this, that, and the third. Well, this is more important. I don't care about that. That doesn't sell newspapers. This story right here is going to sell papers. That's coming from somewhere. You see the same thing. Peter Parker always in trouble for not getting the right footage at the right moment. But he's popular because he's the only one that can get close to Spider-Man. All these corporations have a bottom line that don't got shit to do with the employees. When you apply for a job, you don't apply for that job on the foundation of whether that product or the disbursement of that product is ethical. You don't care about that. You got an 8-hour shift or better where you punch a clock in and out. You're there to do your job, get your pay, and go home. You don't have a clue if the inner workings of that company was built off pedophilia, child labor exploitation, the abuse and rape of women. You don't know. You don't care. Even though this country was built off the backs of indigenous and African slaves, you still haven't made the connection that these are the same companies, just renamed and revamped. You still haven't made that connection. And you go right to the companies and apply. I'm guilty. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is understand what you're a part of. I know you got to participate. We in the trick bag. But you don't got to blindly participate. We can have some knowledge about what we're a part of so that we can be working our way towards getting out. You can't work your way towards getting out of something that you can't even admit you're in. The only thing y'all know how to say is, yeah, shit fucked up. But fucking, I'm getting money, bitch. The human show. Every aspect of your existence is under surveillance and controlled. And the minute you start thinking for yourself, you're going to notice two things. The people who don't do that don't want to be around you. And this world's going to start looking way different to you. That's when we can say, welcome to the game. Because that's what this is. And if you think it's anything other than a game, now it's a very high price game where the stakes are motherfucker. Nevertheless, it's a game. I'm still learning the rules my damn self. But the one thing I do know enough to know is you got to know something to know something. There is nothing else. Knowledge is the only real power. Information is the only real currency. I love y'all. I'm gone.